This guy literally is everywhere, from the Cinephobe podcast on countthedings.com to SiriusXM's NBA radio to theathletic.com, where he covers the NBA. This host, a writer, and movie buff says and does all the things and almost all the time with a whole lot of snark. Let's hear it for the boy, Zach Harper.
Wow, that's like the best introduction I've ever gotten.
Listen, because you're a very important person.
I'll pretend to be right now. That's fine. I'll take it.
Well, listen, so we are in the middle of a pandemic, of a civil rights movement, and the NBA coming back all at once. How is your life in the past 10 hours?
I mean, it's hectic, right? Like it's hectic. I've tried to be over the last week, be as active as possible with the stuff that really matters. And to tell you the truth, like I had a lot of work today because of the NBA coming back. I ended up hosting an impromptu radio show for 3 hours as it was coming back. I wrote an article for it. I've been podcasting about it. I've done a lot, but to be honest, like I just can I swear on here? I can swear on here, right?
Listen,
okay. I could not have given less of a shit that the NBA was coming back because of what's happening in the country right now. And so like I even said it on a couple of pods. I was like, look, I'm trying to care right now, and I'll care when it's back, but right now, like I just don't. And I know that's not the best way to be an NBA radio host and the best way to be an NBA writer, but yeah, it's kind of felt like I've seen all these people who are very excited about it, and I get it, but I'm just like, we kind of have other stuff going on right now. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to focus on.
It feels wrong. It feels wrong. I mean, there's really no way to sugarcoat that. I'm obviously a diehard NBA fan. Go Clippers. Everybody go Clippers.
Yeah!
But yeah, I'm like you. I'm not nearly as excited also because it's still 2 months away. Right. And I feel that even though the NBA has kind of already laid out its plan, there's still so many things that I think are not particularly cemented. So, I mean, as far as if someone gets sick or they test positive and they have to be quarantined for 14 days, how that affects a team's run. So I'm in the same boat as you. I'm not super crunk about that at the moment.
Yeah, it's weird. And also like it's not back yet, right? Because the players still have to agree to the proposal that's been agreed upon by the owners. If Michelle Roberts, who's the executive, the head executive of the Players Association, she comes out and says, no, not good enough, we don't like it, and the players vote and they don't like it, we're back to where we were, yesterday. So
yesterday, exactly.
Yeah. So it's moving that right direction. I think it will be ratified by the players from what I'm hearing, but we don't know until it happens.
Let's talk about how you happened to fall into sports writing and hosting. You're from Northern California originally, right? Yeah. How did you, Sacramento. I'm sorry. Do I have to make that distinction?
No, well, it's just, so there's been this thing over the last 5 to 10 years where Sacramento's trying to wedge themselves into being part of the Bay Area, which is just not. Like the Bay Area, I love Sacramento, but if you don't, I get it. It's like, it's not another thing where I'm like, what? You don't like my city? Like, I can't believe this. I get it if you don't like it. And so I just want to make sure that there are people who like Bay Area is Northern California. There are people that want to make sure that Sacramento is kept separately from that just because the Bay Area is cool and Sacramento very much is not.
What was the trajectory for you to get started in sports hosting and writing?
I don't really have a cool answer. I just wanted to do it. I've been a basketball nerd my whole life. I've always wanted to cover it. I went to college. I was a political science major. I dropped out of college. I started working. I eventually ended up at an appeals court in Sacramento and just doing, clerical work, mailroom work, stuff like that. And one day I was like, I hate this. I don't want this to be my life. I love sports. I know I can write. I think I can talk. And so I'm gonna create a website. So this was in summer of 2007.
Okay.
I just decided to start a website and see what I could do. And then
what was that website?
It was called talkhoops.net. So a lot of people, talkhoops is my social handles. So a lot of people are like, oh wow, how'd you get that? Like what a great handle and everything. I was like, well, one, I was just early on social media, and two, I had a website called talkhoops.net. So talkhoops seemed to make sense to me to have that on there. But I did that for a couple of years, and I didn't have a big following and a big readership, but I got the right people reading. Kevin Arnovitz, who writes for ESPN, he used to work for NPR. He's a brilliant, brilliant man who is wasting himself on sports because he's so much smarter than covering sports. But he kind of took me under his wing. He was my mentor. And in 2009, ESPN started this blog network called the True Hoop Network. And they asked me, because I was living in Sacramento, they said, you want to write our Kings blog? And it's not paid. You're loosely affiliated with ESPN, but we can get you credentialed to games, and
Nice.
and you can, you can cover the NBA on your own time. And when I got that opportunity, I said, absolutely, I'm in. I talked to Kevin about it. I said, I'm thinking about quitting my job and just focusing on this and seeing if I can turn it into a career. And he said something that stuck with me for the last 11 years now. And he said, everyone who makes it in this business takes the leap at some point. So if you choose to take the leap, know that you're not the first person to do it. You won't be the last person to do it. This is what you have to do. And within 10 months of that, I turned that into a job at ESPN, running a nightly chat.
Wait, were you physically at an ESPN studio in LA or in Bristol, or were you just
No,
running
I was still in Sacramento and working remotely. And so as a part of this blog network, they had a nightly chat where they would invite all the bloggers from the network, if their team was playing, to come chat. And I recognized that the editors of ESPN.com did not really want to be monitoring that chat. So I just kept showing up, whether the Kings were playing or not, and just kept showing up every single night for about 4 months and through the playoffs. And then once the finals were over, they said, hey, we'd like to offer you a job. And so they offered me a job to work at ESPN full-time, running their chat. I did that for 2 years. I turned that into a writing job at CBS Sports. Did that for 4 years. Helped a startup called FRS Sports for 2 seasons, and then ended up at The Athletic 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you pretty much quit your job, and then it's been all great. I was going to say uphill, but uphill kind of connotes
Oh, it's uphill. No, it still feels very uphill. Yeah. So yeah, I quit my job and took a chance and carved a career for myself.
How important was having Kevin as a mentor to your success and to your mental health and, success in general?
He's always been someone who I just respect his perspective. Like he's lived such an amazing life. He just knows the world. He knows things outside of sports. There's that whole saying of like, make sure you're never the smartest person in the room, right?
Exactly.
I don't know that Kevin's ever followed that, because Kevin might legitimately be the smartest person in just about every room he goes in. But having that guy to bounce ideas off of, bounce theories, should I take this path in my career? Should I take that path? He always gives completely unemotional, unbiased, just thought into it. And that's what I think you need in being a good friend and being a good mentor with this stuff, is you need to be able to detach, not blow smoke up someone's ass and say, this is what you need to do. This is how you need to improve. This is what it takes to get better.
What has been one of the lowest, and not to spin this in a negative way, but the idea is to kind of get people to understand how we have overcome certain obstacles in our career to get where we are now. What are some of the lowest points, other than quitting that job, that led you to where you are now during your writing career?
Yeah. I mean, I had one a couple years ago before I joined The Athletic. Like I felt like I was going in the opposite direction, right? My first job was at ESPN. Like, that doesn't really happen. Like all of a sudden I quit my job. All of a sudden I'm at ESPN, right? Within 2 years. Or within a year. And so like, I felt like, CBS is a fine place to work, but it's a step down from ESPN. And then the startup FRS Sports was definitely a step down from CBS.
Does FRS Sports still exist?
No, they actually, so part of this low point was I thought I was going to get another year out of them. I knew that it was struggling, but I thought, okay, I'll get another season out of it. And then they all of a sudden hit me one day and said, hey, we're selling to this company. They have no interest in keeping anything. They just want the IP and everything. They're going to disband everything. I can get you 1 extra month of pay. So we'll do that, and we'll pay for you to go to NBA Summer League, as we agreed to before, but that's it. And we don't know what to tell you after that. And so that was in June of 2018. And I knew The Athletic was hiring, but it was going to be for a few months. And so it was a lot of like, all right, I had a little bit of savings. I had credit cards. I could, live off of certain things and kind of just maintain the best I could. And it was a good 3 months of not knowing, am I going to have a job at any time soon? And I, went into debt because of it. And I was stressed out every single day of my life. There was a good, 3.5 months before I signed with The Athletic and actually started getting paychecks and actually had healthcare again and everything, right? Like it was, and not knowing, like, if I play basketball today and blow up my knee, can I pay for it? right? Like it's just
Right.
little basic things like that. If I get in a car accident, what's going to happen?
What position do you play when you play pickup ball?
Point guard, but I don't love to pass. I will pass, and especially if they're good people on the court, I will pass. But I'm a bit of a gunner at this point, and I'm 38 with bad knees. Like I just go 3-point line to 3-point line. If you get past me at the 3-point line, that's someone else's problem.
I'm being Steph Curry with the shot.
You talk about how the entertainment industry, or your industry rather, with writing is always you have to pivot, you have to adjust, you have
Absolutely.
to learn how to go with the trend. So how do you maneuver having to sometimes write long form, sometimes do video content? Do you like video content? Would you rather never have to like get dressed and do this?
My strength is communicating with fans in a very conversational way, right? Like I'm not a traditional, like, here's the writing style and everything. To me, I'm like, I want to provide entertainment. Sports are supposed to be fun. We're supposed to enjoy sports. And a lot of this coverage these days, especially on radio, and on TV, is I'm angry about this in sports. And unless it's an actual injustice, I could not give a shit that someone made a mistake at the end of the game. I'll make jokes about it, but it doesn't anger me that like, oh, LeBron James is supposed to be this, this great leader and he did this. That, like, to me, that doesn't interest me. I want to have fun making jokes about sports, and I know that that's my lane. I can do that on podcasts. I've found a way to do that to radio. So in pivoting, I've realized, okay, if I want to keep this going, you have to be versatile.
You've also found a lane as a movie buff.
Yes.
With Cinephobe. I would rather watch docuseries and documentaries and television shows
right.
for the rest of my life instead of having to go to a physical movie. And now I guess I get my wish.
Right, yeah, I don't think physical movies exist anymore.
Right. But I respect people who can give me the history of movies from the 50s till now. How did you discover that this was also a part of your passion that you wanted to pursue?
So here's the thing about Cinephobe is we only talk about bad movies. So Amin Al-Hassan, who works for ESPN, he works with me on NBA radio. We are part of Count the Dings, the podcast company together. Like we're good friends. We found out years ago, like, oh, Amin would rather watch a bad movie than a good movie.
Why? Who wants to watch a bad movie? Why?
Because here's the thing. Here's the fun thing about it is I will watch a bad movie, and the entire time I'm thinking, that's the best take they got. What did the other takes look like? Right? Why would you write this? Why would you shoot this in this manner? Why would this be the character arc? Like, why? Like, I'm fascinated by why did it become so bad? And so that's what we do is we take movies that are 40% or less on Rotten Tomatoes, either from a critic score or an audience score, and we break it down and we just try to figure out what is this movie actually bad, or is it kind of secretly good and just got bad reviews? Or is it just so fun we don't care if it's good or bad? People often ask me, do you like good movies? I love good movies. I'm just fascinated by bad movies.
What's the best movie you've seen this year of the good movies?
Oh, of the good movies
Uncut
I've
Gems
seen this year. I liked Uncut Gems. It was so stressful though. Like I saw that one in the theater back when you could see movies in the theater. And I literally, I'm just like, I was there with 2 or 3 friends. I was there with 3 friends and I'm in the middle of 2 of them. And I'm just like writhing in my seat the entire time. I'm lucky enough. I don't get stressed. I don't get anxiety. It's very rare that I feel stress or anxiety. And the entire movie, I was sweating. Like I could not like come to grips with what he was doing from moment to moment.
And the way they were, the way the talking, obviously it was directed and written to be that way, but the layered talking over each other for I mean, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but there's a hell of a lot of who knows what the hell is going on.
And for anyone that follows sports, the idea, like, this is, I guess, a spoiler technically, but he's making these 6-way parlays, right? Which means all 6 things in a bet have to happen in order to win. And if one of them doesn't happen, you're out. You lose the money. And he's betting the opening tip of games to where the moment the game tips off, that's anxiety right there. And in that moment in the movie, I'm like, why would you do this? It doesn't make any sense. And so it's the little things like that, especially if you're a sports nerd. And I don't know much about sports betting, but I know enough to, like, I could not get comfortable during that movie.
I disagree.
So we got NBA coming back. We kind of touched on that already. I plagiarized from your article today. So let's just read your article.
Sure, let's do it.
back to you. We got 22 teams coming back. There's a play-in tournament that will determine the 8th seed. The rules. These are your exact words. Okay, I'm admitting that I'm plagiarizing here. The rules are pretty simple. for what we'll see on the court. We're going to have an 8-game schedule to round out the 2019-2020 regular season. If the 8th seed in either conference has more than a 4-game lead over the 9th seed, they are into the playoffs, and we do not get a play-in tournament. Are you okay with the NBA returning in 2 months, essentially, a month and a half?
Yeah. And
are you okay with this format?
I'm conflicted because I don't feel comfortable with the NBA returning right now. I wouldn't feel totally comfortable until we have a vaccine, but I also know that they're looking at, like, they were going to lose like $2-3 billion. Like, there's so much money at stake by coming back, and even just having playoffs. They say they end up making back at least $900 million. That's a minimum of $900 million of having the playoffs on TV. So I get it. Like, it's a money grab. We have to be honest about this. It's a money grab. The part that is a little gross to me is the reason they're bringing 22 teams back is twofold. One, there's local TV money at stake. So in all these local, this is very inside basketball, but for all these local TV deals, the teams don't get their full money unless they get to 70 local games televised. Well, everyone's about at 64, 65 games right now.
And this gives us, what, 72 games, right? If we
72 games. And so the reason they're playing 8 games, each team that's coming back, is to get past that threshold and make sure that those teams get their full money. Now, 8 teams that don't get to come back aren't going to get that. I don't know if there will be revenue sharing. There hasn't been any kind of clarity on that, but it was enough that 29 out of the 30 teams passed this vote today. And then on top of that, because they're trying to get that money back with the local games, like, I just feel like it's a little gross, and that's how we're doing the money grab. And the reason they brought back 22 is to pass this, they needed a 2/3 majority vote. Well, that means 20 teams have to get in. If you just bring back 20 teams, you run the risk of someone saying, we don't really like this plan.
Yep.
They kind of gamed the system to make sure they got the vote. Now, they blew the vote out of the water anyway, 29 teams. And the only reason Portland was the team that didn't vote yes. And the only reason they didn't is because they wanted it to be 20 teams coming back, not 22. And so it basically was going to pass unanimously.
It's going to pass either way. Yeah.
But it feels a little gross to me that we're doing this without a vaccine. It feels a little gross that it's a money grab. And it feels a little gross that we're bringing teams into this quote unquote bubble that don't really need to be there, in my opinion.
I agree with you. And I will even take it a step further. I was thinking, let's just throw the whole season away. Let's just get through the summer, let everyone, get healthy or work out, make sure they're healthy with no COVID, make sure their families are safe, and then just pick the season back up at the end of October.
Yeah.
Or, do a preseason if you want. I guess a few days of preseason. I didn't see the need to have a season in the middle of July. Also, because as a Clipper fan, I'm very concerned that if we win, there's going to be a big fat ass asterisk next to this championship. But what is your take on this makeshift season and the champion carrying an asterisk for the rest of the legacy of the NBA?
I'm conflicted on this too, because knowing how people are, if their team doesn't win, they will dismiss it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
totally.
that doesn't count. I mean, we came back from COVID. Like, not every team got to come back. We didn't have the full season. That doesn't count. But we've had something sort of similar in the past. In 1999, they played 50 games after a lockout. San Antonio Spurs won the championship. Going into that, Phil Jackson said, they're going to have an asterisk. But once the Spurs moved on to the finals, he said, they're going to have an asterisk. It doesn't really count. It wasn't a full season. No one really holds that against the Spurs today, right? 2012, we had a 66-game season after a lockout. Miami Heat won. No one says, but it was just a 66-game season. Now, this is more extreme than that.
This feels very different than those
years.
Feels
very different. But I do think with a little bit of time, whoever wins the championship, it'll just be accepted as a championship. Now, maybe not in the interim, but I think in a longer view that it will come through as people just say, the Clippers won the championship in 2020, right?
I like that.
See? Yeah.
But I know you don't believe right now that the Clippers are the favorite. Right now you have the Lakers at the top of your power rankings. I know this it's fluid. It changes from week to week. Who do you see in the finals? Yeah. Who do you see?
Right. Yeah. I guess it would be the final.
Like,
I mean, it's going to be the COVID finals, whatever we're going to call it. So I actually think the Clippers are the best team in the league. Like, if I had to gun to my head, I do think the Clippers, even trying to remain as unbiased, Kawhi is kind of Kawhi's my guy. Kawhi Leonard's my guy. So
who's your team, by the way? I didn't even ask you who your team is.
I grew up a Minnesota Timberwolves fan, even though I grew up in Sacramento, because I just picked them as a kid, and it was a horrible decision.
Awful.
They've been relevant like maybe 1.5 years of my life, and that's
so bad.
They're terrible. It's a joke of an organization. But to me, Kawhi is the guy I trust the most in the playoffs right now. Hey. And so I generally believe, give me the superstar. I will ride the best superstar to a championship, and that's who I'm going to pick, and that's who I'm going to roll with. I do think there are some advantages to the Lakers right now, just in the way things are seated, because they're going to have an easier road to get to the finals, or to get to the matchup with the Clippers in the conference finals, right. Which I think we all think that that's what's going to happen. So that's why I think that that's why I had them number one. So I just think that road is easier. But I also think they don't want to face the Clippers in the conference finals. They have real issues with the Clippers. Clippers can play big. They can play small. They can play medium. They can play any way they need to. And the Lakers can only really play one way. So if I had to pick, I would pick the Clippers to win it all. But I do think the Lakers have a slight advantage just in the road right now.
Okay. I dislike you giving them a slight advantage, but sure. I mean, hey, we can disagree. But you know what? Honestly, I'm not completely disagreeing with you. I'm with you on them having the advantage because they do have the easier road. Let's talk about the road to watching The Last Dance, or have you already watched The Last Dance?
Oh yeah, I've consumed it a lot.
Right. What are your biggest takeaways? What are your 3 highlights that you walked away from watching The Last Dance and said, "Wow"?
I knew the story of Steve Kerr's dad. I know it's a Michael Jordan documentary, but I knew the story of Steve Kerr's dad. But watching him and watching his mom talk about it on camera, that actually moved me. Where I was like, wow, it's just different to know something happened than to hear the people talk about it who lived it, right? I mean, that we see that with any documentary, any interview. It's just different to see that pain on their face as they relive it. And so that really moved me from the documentary. The Dennis Rodman, vacation in the middle of the season to go to Las Vegas, and Michael Jordan had to pull him out of a hotel room with Carmen Electra. That is just one of the best stories imaginable. I was blown away at that story. And then this is something we've known about Michael for a long time. It's not news. He's a petty, angry person,
angry after all these years. What is the grudges? Dude, you're the best thing ever to walk a basketball court. Let it go.
And so I knew there was tape of him. I knew there was audio tape of him saying that he was responsible for Isaiah Thomas not being on the Dream Team in 1992. So when he came out and said the opposite, said, "Oh, I didn't have anything to do with that." I knew the tape existed. Everyone's heard about this tape, and so I was like, okay, well, that's going to get unearthed. And so seeing him kind of give his own version of events, I don't want to say he lied on. Well, no, I'll say he lied on camera. He lied on camera. He lied about plenty of things. But I love watching him tell the stories, even if I don't agree with the sequence of events of how, because you do see that pettiness in real time. It's one thing to hear about him being an asshole. It's another thing to see him being an asshole when he's talking about it. And it almost made me respect him more of oh yeah, this mythical, being that we've worshipped for, 30 years at this point now. No, he's really that guy. He really is that dude. And so he owns it. He doesn't really shy away from it. He shied away from it for a little bit, but seeing that, I was like, okay, yeah, no, Mike's an a-hole. I'm in. That's vindication for all the things we've heard about him.
Oh, to your point about him being a butthole or asshole, I've already said asshole 10 times.
Yeah, sorry.
Whatever. To that point, I think it's interesting to look at today's sports stars, athletes, circumstances, and say the things that we know about Michael now, we would have known then if we had social media. Yeah. There have always been rumors and whatever. We could never really put it in concrete until watching The Last Dance. I really think that just goes to show how social media has shaped us as journalists, as hosts, as entertainers. Absolutely. And it has also shaped how athletes move and behave in their daily lives, and obviously on social media, because it exists and it didn't then.
And I think too, the stuff, I wish they had spent more time. I mean, I really could use 3 hours on the whole Republicans buy shoes too, and him not not endorsing Gant in North Carolina.
In North Carolina, yeah.
Like I could have used a lot more on that. I thought they glossed over that a little too much and didn't explore that enough. But you'd think about that and how he was so worried about messing up the money, right? Messing up this empire that he ends up building. And it really set the tone for today. LeBron James come out here and call the president a bum.
Yeah.
Say, you bum. How are you going to say this about these guys, right? And you don't just see him doing it. You see Jaylen Brown of the Boston Celtics driving from Boston to Atlanta to lead a march this week. You see Trae Young of the Atlanta Hawks going out there and being active. Steph Curry and Klay Thompson being active
they marched,
in the community in the Bay Area. Like you see all these players, and I think Mike's reluctance to do that set up a system. And I'm not even to say like let's praise him for this. I think it just set up a system where the money became so big that once players started gaining this money, they got generational wealth. Like guys have signed a $100 million contract and they feel like, all right, I'm good. I can say what I want.
Right. Well, and to that point though, I think, and as much as I hate to admit it, I don't think that Michael Jordan as a Black man during that era could have been as outspoken. Now maybe, so, maybe he should have been more vocal about the politics of North Carolina, especially because that was, he was North Carolina's son.
Yeah.
But because he did shut up and dribble, so to speak, I think he was able to keep those endorsements and then ultimately pave the way for the LeBrons and the Stephs and the Clays. So I think it's a double-edged sword. I don't love that he didn't speak out. I like now that he's being more vocal and more of an activist. He's not really being that much of an activist, but more now than he ever was.
But this compared to then, like he's come out with a couple of statements over the last few years that I never thought he would make.
Right. Let's play something fun.
Okay.
Called Big Dog, Little Dog, Rapid Fire. This is where I'm going to ask you a series of questions. I'm just going to reel them off and you have to give me your answer as quickly as you can without giving it much thought. And I am judging you internally with my internal clock.
Don't worry. I give almost nothing thought. So I can fire off answers. Won't even think about it.
Here we go. Favorite movie of all time?
Ooh, Princess Bride.
When you grow up, what do you want to be?
A homeowner, actually.
That's a good one. Yeah. Me too. Most embarrassing workplace moment.
I got popped by Greg Popovich. The infamous, like when he's rude to a reporter, happened to me in 2012, 2013 in Minneapolis. I asked him a question about defending corner three-pointers, and he looked at me and said, do you think if I knew the answer to that, I would tell you? And I looked around, and none of the other reporters, they all put their head down. And I just looked at him. I said, what if I was nice about it? And then he just walked away. So that was a pretty embarrassing moment. Yeah.
That's a good pop story. Okay. Yeah. In their heyday, who would win in a fight between Charles Barkley and Draymond Green?
Ooh, Charles Barkley.
Thank you.
Draymond's tough, but Charles Barkley threw someone through a glass window. And then when he went to court over it, the judge asked him, do you have any regrets? He says, yes, I regret that we weren't on the second floor.
Right. I think Charles, maybe if he had better knees, could maybe beat Draymond right now.
I think so too, yes.
Okay. Advice that you would give your younger self.
Start earlier. Follow your dreams earlier, because I didn't get started until I was 25, 26 years old, and I should have started when I was 18.
Someone says to you, I have a secret, but you cannot tell anyone. Who are you going to tell that secret to?
Nobody. I'm a vault. Yeah.
Okay.
Someone says not to tell it, I don't tell it.
3 favorite songs or artists on your current workout playlist.
Ooh, I'll go artists. I'll say Run the Jewels. I will say Jay-Z always, and Biggie. Absolutely. Yeah.
And finally, what is your weirdest talent?
My weirdest talent. I can flip my eyelids inside out.
Let's see it. Come on.
Oh my God.
Do
okay.
it,
I haven't done it so well. Yeah, it looks disgusting. I haven't done it since I was a kid, but I used to freak my mom and my sister out a lot as a kid doing that.
Do this. That was good.
Yeah.
You passed the test. That was really good. Let me tell you who's not passing the test. It's James Dolan from the Knicks regarding George Floyd and the protest of the past week. he sent an internal memo to his Knicks staff where he said that the Knicks are not any more qualified than anyone else to offer our opinion on social matters. So instead of speaking out like most companies and like almost every single NBA team has about George Floyd and not the protests per se, but police brutality and acknowledging inequalities against Black men in America across not just, NBA players, but obviously all Black men across all industries. Right. And Black people, the Breonna Taylors, I can go on and on and on. How do you feel about, what are your thoughts, I should say, on how the Knicks have handled it? And furthermore, how have you personally been affected? Because you work with a lot of Black men. I mean, you live in America around Black people.
Yes.
How have you been affected? But first, rag on James Dolan.
So this is nice. So if I'm on any other platform, I can say whatever I want about James Dolan. When I'm on NBA radio, that's a channel owned by the NBA and which is essentially owned by the NBA owners. So we cannot talk trash about owners. We cannot say, we can disagree, we can challenge, but I can't say what I want to say. He's a clown.
The clown.
Like James Dolan is a clown. He's a trust fund inherited baby who is not fit to run anything. I wouldn't let him like walk my dog, let alone run an NBA franchise that is worth over $4 billion. Like James Dolan is a clown.
I'm homie the clown.
He doesn't have to try to make that organization good because it's such a money-making machine. They print money when they're bad, and they've been a joke every year that he has been the owner of that team. They made the playoffs like twice during that time, but they have, since he took over the team, they have the lowest win percentage in the NBA. And the only reason they don't have the fewest wins is because the Charlotte franchise didn't exist for 2 of those years.
Okay.
That is the only they are the worst franchise in his era. And just from a human standpoint, to drop a little bit of a name, Pablo Torre is a friend of mine. He's the one that broke that story of the James Dolan memo. He's the one that unearthed that from employees at MSG. And so when Pablo broke that story, at first it was such a bad look that I thought, I wonder if Pablo's just making a joke here. Like, I wonder if Pablo made up because Pablo's a funny guy. Pablo loves to joke around. I legitimately wondered, it couldn't be this bad. It couldn't be this tone deaf. It couldn't be this hollow of an effort here. And it was. It's 100% true. That is the memo. And what they've done by having that internal memo, James Dolan painted himself into a corner where now he can't really go the other way because he said they're not going to comment on it for various reasons. The reason they're not going to comment on it is because he is very much in lockstep with New York police. So he's not going to come out there and talk against police brutality. Now, I will say this. There have been 28 teams that have made a statement. The Knicks and the Spurs have not. The Spurs have had
Pop made a statement.
Yeah, Pop is very vocal, and he is a high-ranking executive, not just a coach, but a high-ranking executive. But the Spurs, as an organization, owner Peter Holt, has not made a statement. They had a couple of social media posts, which are whatever, like just
super vanilla, very
super
much
vanilla, hollow, to be honest. Like it might as well not have done anything.
Yeah.
Of the 28 teams that made a statement, one of them actually mattered. The Washington Wizards statement actually mattered because it was made by the players. The players said, this is what we want you to say. And the Wizards, I rag on Ted Leonsis, the owner, a lot because I think he's a terrible owner. To his credit, he said, that's what you want to say, that's what we'll say. And so that was the only – every other statement. Michael Jordan made a pretty solid statement. So he is the owner of the Charlotte Hornets. So I guess I can say 2 ownership groups made decent statements. One made a good statement. The other one made a decent – all the other one – They don't mention police brutality. They come out and say they're against racism and injustice. Fantastic. So should everyone be, right? That's not a statement to me. That's hollow. That is going through the motions. And so part of me is very upset at James Dolan and the Knicks and upset at Peter Holt and the Spurs for not saying anything.
Yeah.
But then 26 other teams made a statement but didn't say anything.
They took the Tiger Woods way out.
Exactly. Yeah, they went full Tiger Woods, and you never go full Tiger Woods
you don't
at any
ever
point.
Go.
No, you never go full Tiger Woods. And so, yeah, like I'm angry at the entire league right now, pretty much the entire league, and I just think I don't think it takes much to come out and say we are against police brutality. I don't think it means you're against the police. It means you're against the police beating and killing black people and other minorities. I don't think that is something that would affect your business, should endanger your business, or should make you feel like it's going out on a limb. That is a very basic thing to say, and I'm very frustrated at the NBA and the NBA teams for not saying that.
How have you, other than being angry at the NBA, because I mean, I'm obviously I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
For franchises' inability to speak truth to the actual real source of what needs to be spoken to. How have you, as an Angelino, been affected immediately by the protest and just by the entire social climate?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a pretty outspoken person, and we're recording this on Thursday night. Friday night, when stuff really started going off around this country, I thought about, all right, I'm outspoken, but I really haven't been outspoken enough, right? Like I hate this stuff, but I haven't done enough. And so at least over the last week, like I've donated money, I've spread information, I'm harassing local politicians online now. Like I sent an email to every single council member that was supposed to vote on the budget. Like I have, quote unquote, threatened local politicians with, we're going to vote you out if you vote yes on this budget.
Right.
And even there was a headline yesterday of, Nuri Martinez from Van Nuys, who's the president of the city council, and Mayor Garcetti, they're cutting $100 to $150 million off this budget from the police. They're going to put
$3 billion.
Right. And I looked at it, I was like, I've read this. I've read the proposal, which is not something I'd never done, but I did this over the last week. And just from the general fund, they were going to put $1.84 billion, not counting pensions and not counting healthcare, for the police department. So when you factor all that in, it's like you said, like $3 billion, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, $100 to $150 million is a lot of money. I'm not going to deny that. Like that is a lot of money to put into the community instead of putting towards the police. It's not much when you still are putting $1.7 billion. And I do not pretend to know what it costs to run a police department for a city the size of Los Angeles. I just know $1.7 billion is too much. Like I'm angry. I'm frustrated. I'm scared when we're staying here in the apartment at night and the National Guard is 2 blocks away. I'm frustrated. I'm just fed up. And I've realized like this needs to be something that that as a white man, I need to make sure that other white people are taken seriously. Like it's a lot of like, well, we just kind of, we're just here for the sports talk. Okay, this is an uncomfortable conversation for you. Congratulations. It's going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to make sure it's uncomfortable for as long. And my fear with all this stuff too is I don't want this to be not talked about in a week, right? Like
I'm right there with you.
That's my biggest fear. And so trying to figure out, all right, how do I do my job, but also do this much bigger job? Like it's something I'm struggling with, but I'm trying to find a way to make it work.
Well, listen, I appreciate that. And I appreciate you for that, because I know that these are difficult conversations to have.
Yeah.
And it's awful that I have to say, I appreciate you as if it's not both of our struggles.
It's right. But it's also, isn't it the most basic thing I could do is be there right there with, right? Like that's the other thing. It's like, to me, it's not a matter of like, oh, this is going to make me look like, this is just what it should be. And it's what it should have been for hundreds of years.
Well, on a lighter note, before I let you go,
sure.
Where do you see yourself career-wise, other than being a homeowner?
Yes.
In the next 5 years, are we going to see you on ESPN, on Inside the NBA, which, by the way, came back tonight?
Yes, it did come back tonight. Yeah.
Thank you, Lord, I guess. I mean, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
It's fun. Like some very close colleagues of mine have asked me this over the years of like, what do you want to be? And my answer is always, I want to be the best at this. And they say, what does that mean? And I always say, I don't know, but when something happens in the NBA, I want to be, if not the first person, one of the first people that are like, okay, what does Zach think about this? Right. Whatever that is in 5 years, that's what I want to be. So if that's, my own radio show full-time on a major network outside of the NBA radio, whether that's a podcast company that becomes very lucrative in its own income, whether that's being on TV, whether that's writing, features that really move people and move the conversation. I want to do all that. So I'm just going to say within 5 years, like, I hope that's my goal. And that's what the goal's always been. And yeah, I'm a competitive jerk, as you'll notice on a basketball court when I'm just gunning up shots and not passing to people. Like, it's out of competitiveness, and I just like being competitive about everything.
So in a few years, instead of Woj bombs, guys, we're going to be seeing Harp bombs.
Yes, exactly.
Harp.
You see the heart bomb, and
bombs.
yeah, and you won't even remember those Woj bombs. They're just going to look like firecrackers.
Where can the people find you? Go ahead and plug shamelessly all your stuff.
Subscribe to The Athletic. If you're saying, hey, I don't want to subscribe to stuff that I can read for free, you're not going to read any of this elsewhere. Like, ESPN does a fine job covering the NBA. The Athletic does the best job of telling the stories. You get a free 90-day trial by going to theathletic.com right now and signing up. And then after that, it's like $4 a month or something like that.
$3.99. I signed up today.
There you go. It's a great deal. SiriusXM NBA Radio. Subscribe to SiriusXM, and you can follow me on any social at Talk Hoops on Instagram, at Talk Hoops on Twitter, and count the dings. We do live shows for our podcast when that's allowed again. When people are allowed to gather again, we do live shows. We've done them in New York. We've done them in Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Boston, Chicago. It is a fun time. It is a good show. So check us out there at countthedings.com.
All right, guys, that was Zach Harper, officially, in my book at least, a big dog. Thank you so much.
I'll take that. Thank you.